Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Flying with Overkill DCS World F-16C Viper. And today we're going to be taking a look at CCIP bombing. We've got 6 Mark 82 Snake Eyes on board, so we've got the high drag variant. Now, the cool part here is that we don't necessarily have to use the high drag, and that's kind of the nice part about using the either the Snake Eye or the Mark 82 Airs, or sorry, Mark 82 Airs or the Mark 82, I can't remember the other name. Can't remember it. It's gone. It's not there. Anyway, is that you have the option to either do a dive bomb approach, okay, which is what we're going to do first. We're going to show CCIP bombing, okay, and the CCIP from high altitude, okay, so we're going to do high altitude, low drag. High altitude, low drag, basically, like I said, think of World War II style dive bombing, right? We're going to go way up high, 10, 15,000 feet, come down on our target at a 45-degree angle, pitch that pipper right down on the target, pickle away, pull the nose up, and we're out of there, right? And then you have low altitude high drag. Now, high drag is going to be where the bombs have either a drogue chute or or fins that pop out. When they do is they literally slow the bomb down after you release it. And the purpose of that is because on low altitude, we're talking 500 feet off the deck when we pickle these bombs away. So we need to make sure that we slow them down enough to make sure that the aircraft escapes the blast range before the bombs detonate, right? That way we don't catch shrapnel from our own weapons. Couple things you want to be aware of when using the CCIP from high altitude and low drag, and actually really either one, is when you pickle the weapons, you need to make sure that you're not pushing down on the stick. If you're pushing forward on the stick, trying to get that pipper on point or anything like that, you can potentially hit your own bombs by increasing your dive angle at the time of release. So there's a couple little things that we're going to have to be aware of. Other than that, the principle is going to be very similar to what we did before. All right, so let's go ahead and work our way around the cockpit here. We're going to set us into air to ground mode. We're going to make sure that our master arm is set. And let's go ahead and come on down here and take a look at the stores page. Lock the camera up here. Alright, so now let's go ahead and take a look at the air to ground configuration. So currently you can see we're in air to ground mode on our stores page. We're in CCIP mode, which is where we want to be for today. That's continuously calculated impact point. Alright, and we can see we have our 6 Mark 82 Airs on board. We can see we're in Profile 1, Profile 2. We'll switch this to CCRP. We do not want. Right now we're set to drop 1 bomb with each release of the pickle button. Okay, if we had multiple bombs set to release, we could adjust the distance and the ripple quantity between the two. And we'll talk about that later. All right, we can see here this is the fusing configuration. Right now we're in high drag configuration, meaning that the bombs are configured for a low altitude, high speed drop. The purpose of the high drag is basically these 2 bombs. You have the Mark 82 Airs and the Mark 82 Snake Eyes. And one of them, the ones we have on board, the Airs, will actually open up a white parachute in the back. I think it's called drogue chute, which will slow the bomb down. And then the Snake Eyes actually have wings that open up and again, do the same thing. Again, the whole purpose is to slow the bomb down. And the reason why we want to slow the bomb down is we want to make sure that the aircraft, has enough time to get away from the detonation area before the bombs make impact. Now you can see they're currently in nose-tail configuration. It's sort of a redundancy. Basically, there's a fusing in the aft end of the bomb as well as in the nose. So whichever end of the bomb hits the ground first, that sends the detonation signal. Then we can switch it to low drag nose. Okay, so this is going to be your dive bombing, right? You're going to be up at high altitude, coming down anywhere from 20 to a 45-degree dive angle. Okay, very high speed, high altitude. And when you pick all the bombs, they're going to come in like a torpedo, man, right? They're not going to try to slow down. They're just going to drop right in. And it's because we're up high enough where we shouldn't have to worry about the detonation. So we're going to start with the low drag configuration first, and then we'll come on down and make a low altitude pass. All right, so let's go ahead and get after it. So first, coming up to the top for a second, you can see our currently selected waypoint indicates our target zone here. This is the bomb steering line that we have for CCIP. Now, unlike CCRP, if we turn the aircraft, this line isn't going to maintain its current position. It's going to move with the aircraft. Okay, this horizontal line is our pipper offset indicator. Basically, it lets us know how much farther that guy is below the nose. From the center of the flight path marker down, lets you know the distance to the actual pipper. Now, a cool thing that we can do here when we're in CCIP mode is bring up our TGP if you have one on board, and the Pipper, or the TGP, is locked to the Pipper. We can't move the TGP if we wanted to right now, okay? But basically the TGP, if you notice the trees here, notice the little ravine here, okay, and the more trees behind it, okay? If we look out our window, we see the same thing. There's that river, there's the trees that were behind it, and there's the next set, okay? So whatever the TGP is seeing is what your Pipper is looking at as well. Okay, now we're moving fast enough that that's probably going to be a problem regardless. All right, so let's go ahead and get rolling. All right, so what we're going to do here, let's go ahead and change our waypoint over to our target area. We're going to climb and get some altitude, and then we will start an attack. All right, so what we're going to do on the first pass here is we're going to drop 2 bombs at one time. So all we're going to do is come here and change the single to 1 pair. That's exactly what it sounds like. We're going to drop 2 bombs with a single depression. All right, now we're a little far out still, so I'm going to get us in a little closer. This would be an extremely high dive angle here, or a low dive angle, I should say. We don't want that, so we're going to get in a bit closer before we start our attack. And a good way to sort of at least give you a visual reference, it's not perfect, but gives you an idea. If your target area is right here, you'll be at about a 20-degree dive angle to reach it, okay, on your approach. If your target is about here, you'll be at about a 30-degree dive angle. And if your target is right about here, you'll be at about a 45-degree dive angle, okay? Steeper the dive, the faster you go, more accurate the bomb drop is, but obviously more risk to the aircraft as you have to be able to get back out of that. So make sure you're managing your speed at that point. All right, so we're going to go ahead and roll in here. All right, so as I said, we're about 45 degrees or so. Now I'm just going to start pulling my Pipper up just a little bit. Pickle. All right, so we should have 2 bombs out in the air. And that's a shack. So CCIP, the nice thing about it, I mean, it's literally, it doesn't get much simpler than this. You know, target in the dot, pickle the button. When target is in the dot, bomb hits target. Okay. Now, the biggest thing to remember is that when you are in the dive, okay, do not chase the Pipper. Okay, so notice that as I pitch the nose down, or as we descend, watch what this horizontal line is doing. It's coming down, coming down, coming down, coming down. And once it disappears, the Pipper will start coming up. Okay, what you don't want to do is if you have your target, you don't want to chase the Pipper. So if we're coming down, all right, we see our target. Okay, we see our target. There's our target on the top of that mountain. We start pitching the nose down. You don't want to do that necessarily to chase the Pipper. Wait for the Pipper to come up to you. Because if you continue to push nose down and you pickle, you run the chance of diving down into your own bombs. So when you release the bombs, it's important for you to remember that they are armed. Just like they are designed to hit the target, if you hit them, releasing them in a dive, and you continue to pitch the nose down and hit your own bombs, they will take you out. All right, so now let's go ahead and try a low altitude pass. All right, so what we're going to do here is I'm going to put us back into an active pause here for a minute. Is we're going to come down, and first we're going to change our fusing to high drag, and let's do the nose tail. All right, we're still going to do a pair, and actually let's just drop the remaining 4. So let's do this. We're going to do ripple 4. We want 4 bombs to drop. Enter. And we're going to make this single because we want them all to drop 1 at a time, okay? So keep that as single. Otherwise, you could do 4 pair, and literally it's going to drop 2. And then in this case, 10 feet later, it would drop the other 2. We don't want that. We want them to drop 1 at a time. And you figure our targets are probably, I don't know, 60 feet apart maybe. Let's try 65 feet. 65 feet apart. Let's hit enter. Okay. So 1 bomb is going, or a total of 4 bombs are going to drop. But because it's single, they're going to drop 1 at a time, 65 feet apart for a total of 4 bombs. All right. So next thing we have to do is we're going to have to get our radar altimeter below 1,000 feet and get our speed up to about 500 knots to safely clear the area. All right. So let's go ahead and see if we can make that all work. I'll do my best to get us into a flyby view fast enough, but we'll see what happens. And that's the problem with CCIP bombing, by the way, and using the TGP. It's nice if you're on target very early, but it gets a little bit more difficult when you're trying to do it rapidly. And actually, we are just about where we need to be, so let's just get us on target here. And we need to get that altitude down. As I'm sitting here telling you guys about it, I should probably listen to my own advice. And so the idea behind it here, what we're going to do is get our pipper onto the first target and just pickle, and the bomb should drop again. You know, in the sequence that 4 bombs 65 feet apart, hopefully make some rain. All right, and we'll go for that back left row there. So not the first group, but we'll go for the second group. Let's get our nose down. I'm going to pull some speed off a little bit. We're hauling ass. So air brakes coming out. I'm a little off center. I'm a lot off center, honestly, but you know what the hell. So here we go. Pickle. So you can see the chutes opened up. I think we got one. I dropped a little early. Let's see how we did over here. Yeah, it looks like we got one. Maybe two. Maybe two. But so if you get your measurements right and you get your timings right and you don't stall your aircraft into the ground because you're too busy looking at what you hit with a bomb, the CCIP, especially the low altitude one, if you practice with the low altitude bombing and you get good at it, it's a lot of fun. There's just something about watching all those targets blow to smithereens as you fly over them at, 500 knots, 500 feet off the deck. But anyway, that is the long and short of CCIP bombing, guys. There really isn't a whole lot to it. Like I said, just be careful on those dive bombs. Make sure you don't dive into your own bombs. On your low altitude strafes, like we just tried, it really is crucial to have the parameters correct. Try to keep it at that 500 feet. It's 5 by 5. 500 feet, 500 knots, and as long as you have those parameters as close as they should, these parameters, your distance parameters, make a whole lot more sense. Obviously, the faster you go, the less effective the 65 feet is going to be, essentially. I should say it's going to be harder for you to time it right. You know what I mean? So, and that's why I tried to slow the aircraft down. But anyway, like I said, a lot of fun to do. Go out there and practice it, guys. If you guys have any questions, as always, leave them in the comments below. And I will see you folks in the next one. Take care, guys.